Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to go over 3 ways to accelerate the dividend snowball effect. So maybe eventually one day, sooner rather than later, you can live off passive income. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so before I get into that, first thing I want to ask is for those of you guys that are channel members, if you could let me know if this is working. So we put the video on Premiere uh, for the last video that we had. Um, and I just want to make sure that you guys are still able to access the content early. So if you could leave a content or a comment down below, letting me know that that is still the case, that even when the video is premiered, that you can still see the content early. I would appreciate it. If you cannot, either way, let me know. So that way we can try to figure something out, because we're trying to figure something out where we can get both. But we need to know if it's actually working. So anyways, with that being said, let's go ahead and get into the first one. So the first one would, of course, be, I'm sure you guys are going to guess, super high yield dividend paying stocks and ETFs. Okay, so I know it might seem like a crazy idea, but there's this theory that we've had for a while that, if you eventually, like, with enough time, with stable enough ETFs, and again, these are all relatively risky because even the most stable ones can go down in a down market. But with the super high yield dividend ETFs, eventually, like, let's say you get enough money, you have 1,000, 2,000 a month in income, something like that. You can then roll those dividends into monthly dividend paying stocks. And then you can roll the dividends from the high yield dividend, well, super high yield ones, into higher or slightly, they're still high yielding, but they're more like 10, 12%. So the first batch would be like the yield maxes, the curve invest ETFs, the Defiance ETF, something like that. The second batch would be like some of the other positions we have, like RIV or ACP or OPP or PDI or even BITO, something like that. I know that's crypto related, but you guys get the point. Like, the yield is quite a bit smaller. So the top tier ones would be like 40+%, 30+%. The second tier ones would be like somewhere between, I'd say, like 8 to 15%. Again, ideally, these would be monthly. The ticker symbols I just listed off are monthly ones. And then once you have enough income between the super high yield ones and the monthly high yield ones, then you can roll those into quarterly dividend paying stocks and or ETFs, which again have a little bit lower yield, but it also gives you some more stability across the entire portfolio. So let's say you pull in $2,000 a month from the super high yield ones, then you start dumping everything you have. And this is all hypothetical, of course, it's not financial advice. I'm just throwing what you could do out there. So you put, let's say, that 2,000 a month from your passive income, plus let's say 3,000 a month from your active income, into kind of that 8 to 15% range. Eventually get that to, like, let's say 1,000 a month, and then you can put that 3,000 a month from the passive income dividend paying stocks into quarterly paying dividend stocks, all the while increasing your income, but also providing stability to the portfolio. The thing I want to point out here in terms of the difference between the super high yielding dividend paying stocks versus like the 8 to 15% or the quarterly dividend paying stocks is you can snowball the growth of the income a lot faster when you have a much higher yield versus when you have like 3-4% on, say, Pepsi or something like that. And there's nothing wrong with Pepsi, but it would take a lot longer to get to 2,000 a month with, however many shares of Pepsi at 3% versus, let's say, however many shares of YMAX at 37%. Okay. You guys see the difference. Just the difference between the 37% and the 3% is that the 37%, and again, YMAX's price over the course of its history since inception so far has actually been relatively stable. So I'm picking a little bit more stable one here, but it's 12x the yield of what Pepsi would be. And again, Pepsi is a great company. They're dividend king. They've been around for eons. They're cash flow positive, all that jazz. An American-based company, one of the largest companies in the world. Okay, very good company. But again, they do only yield 3%. So again, Pepsi is more like stability and dividend growth, whereas this would be, ideally rolling the dividends down, and yield over time would be kind of the way to accelerate the dividend growth process, but also kind of broaden out everything in the portfolio and make it nice and diversified, but also high yielding, low yielding at the same time, and also a lot of price stability overall. Depending on which ones you pick, of course, in terms of the super high yield ones. So the second way in order to accelerate the dividend snowball effect, one that we're actually currently doing right now, and again, we are kind of doing step one a little bit. So we don't have a lot of dividend growth stocks. I think we have like a small amount of 3 or 4. Again, we're still working on the first 2 tiers, so super high yield, and then the high yield ones, the 5 to 18%. We do have those. We have most of the super high yield ones here on Robinhood. The 8 to 15% ones, most of them on M1 Finance, and then in due time, we will eventually get to the dividend growth stocks and ETFs like I don't know, just pick your poison, like Pepsi, Procter and Gamble, maybe natural fuel and gas. I've heard that what is it called? SCHD is a pretty popular one. We used to have that, but we weren't really like heavy investors into it. So to give you guys an example of the fact that we are invested, you guys can see we have some of the Yield Max ETFs here. Some that are a little bit more risky. The single stock ones naturally are more risky, especially with the high yield. But the ETFs, the price depreciation on these are offset by the dividends. In my opinion, I think that probably the safest ones among these high yielding ones, in my opinion, in terms of price stability and appreciation, would be something like the Curve Invest ETFs, like TSLP, and then FEPI, and maybe YMAX, YMAG, and QDTE is relatively stable too, and also SPYT. So some things like that, if you don't want to get into the super high yield single stock ETFs, that's understandable. But we are actually implementing this process right now. So option number 2 is, well, options. So for those of you guys that don't know, people that do what's known as the wheel strategy, which is cash secured puts and then covered calls. So pretty much you throw on a cash secure put, like I'll show you guys here, for example. So you throw on a cash secure put, and then at some point, eventually the shares will get assigned to you because, again, you're being put the shares. That's pretty much what it means. And then you turn around and write a covered call. Covered call is basically you're wanting to sell the shares at a certain strike price above whatever your current cost basis is, so you can be a profit and get premium. And eventually those shares will get called away, and then you just simply repeat the process. That's pretty much, in short, what the wheel strategy is. So I'll give you guys a hypothetical example. So Mara is a very well-known Bitcoin miner. Again, we're just simply doing the Bitcoin miners for the remainder of the Bitcoin bull run. When the bull run's over, we probably most likely are going to be out of these. If we do a reaccumulate, we'll probably reaccumulate towards the bottom of the bear market, which in my opinion, there probably is still going to be one. But I just want to point this out. So a relatively safe delta when selling calls or puts is somewhere between a 20 to a 30. Again, you have to gauge that for yourself. For something that's super, super volatile, like something like AMC, GME, penny stocks, something like that, a 20 delta might be better. For something like the Bitcoin miners, I would say we probably get away with maybe a 20 to 30 delta. For some of the dividend paying stocks, especially the dividend growth stocks, you might even be able to get away with a 40 delta. But again, it just simply takes time and experience to get to the point to where you can really get a feel for how all this works. So kind of the gist of what I'm trying to point out here is this. So with options, you can actually create passive income a lot faster than you can with dividend paying stocks. I know, crazy concept, sounds insane, but I'm going to show you guys the numbers here. So we have a Mara sell put, $20. And again, the market's going to change. The strike prices are going to change. The premiums will change. The premiums have been relatively high for a long time on the Bitcoin miners. But again, all these things change over time. So you got to kind of adjust your numbers and figure out what it is at whatever time you choose to do it. But so pretty much what I'm looking at here is, let's say I want to do a sell put and I go ahead and go through with it. If I were to do review order, let's say, for example, this thing is going to hold $2,000 of my money as collateral. What that means is basically the $2,000 is going to be locked up until the expiration date. If the shares, or if if it expires below the strike price, I will get put the shares. This money that's in collateral will get basically spent to purchase the shares. I'll receive the shares, and then the whoever the person is on the other end of the trade will end up getting the money. Now, if in a put it expires above my strike price, I'll receive my collateral back, will not be forced to take the shares, and the whoever the other person was, they'll just simply get to hold on to their shares, which I'm assuming on the other end of the trade, it would be somebody who is selling a call, would be my guess. Or buying a call. No, I think it's actually buying a call. My bad. I don't think it's selling a call. I think it's buying a call. But so that's pretty much how that process would work. So again, to do this cash secured put, it would cost $2,000. So basically, the share price, or I should say, the strike price times 100 shares. So the thing I want to point out here is this is a weekly contract. Okay, so this would automatically give me $50 a week times, let's say, 4 contracts, so $200 a month in options premium, which also could be known as income, passive income. A lot of people would say it's not passive because, oh, you have to write a contract. Guys, this literally takes, like, if you pay attention to what you're doing, maybe 1 or 2 minutes. Okay, it's very quick. It doesn't take a lot of time to figure this out, especially if you know how the wheel works. You've had some experience with it. It's literally like that fast. It doesn't take any time at all. So the thing I want to point out here is, so we do the $2,000 in tomorrow. We know that we get $200 a month, right? So 2,000 divided by, let's say, the price of YMAX, which I believe, I'm going to go back and look at this, but I believe it is 2027, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, 2026. So I was a penny off. So we'll do 2026. You can see it's basically 98 shares, or 98.7 shares, basically 99 shares. The most recent dividend payment, which again, these will fluctuate because they're yield max ETFs, is $72 a month, which is pretty good. But again, $72 a month is not as much as $200 a month. Okay. And so that's a $128 discrepancy. Now, if I were to go even lower than this, let's say I really do not want to get assigned the shares. Like, I just do not want to get assigned the shares. Okay. All I want is to lock up the collateral for a week, let the contract expire worthless, and get my premium. Even in that situation where I pick a really super safe delta of only 23, which again is pretty much almost a guarantee not to get assigned, as you guys can see, the dividend payment here was $72, right? And that's for 1 month, which again is still really good. However, even with this super safe delta, I would still be pulling in another $60 a month with a 23 delta. Okay. So the thing I want to point out here is that's only for 1 contract. Okay, let's say I wanted to do 10, and of course it's going to cost $20,000, because if it's $2,000 for 1 contract, 10 is going to cost $20,000. We're talking $500 a month, right? So just with 20K, you could be potentially pulling in about $2,000 a month. Again, if you wanted to go down to this number, it'd be a little bit less. So I believe that would come out to $128 a week, if I'm not mistaken. You know what? Let me just click on this. This would be easier. So no, not 100. What am I saying? 128. I don't know where I came up with that number. Sorry, y'all. So 500, or even on the safer spectrum, you'd be looking at $330 a week. Again, that's $1,320 a week. If I were to do this same thing with the YMAX ETF, which in my opinion is a relatively safe ETF, that's the reason why we have some money in it. We would not if we didn't think that there was something for us to gain out of it and not lose. So $720 a month, as you guys can see, is still quite short of $1,320 a month, or even $2,000 a month. So what you could do theoretically is you could focus almost exclusively on options, just options, and then eventually, once you get enough income, let's say 3, 4, 5,000 a month, which probably I can't imagine it would take that long. I mean, whether you get assigned or not, whether you make profit or not, you're still going to get the premium. And if you're putting the premium back into the options portfolio and putting your active income into it, your dividend income into it, whatever else you got into it, this thing's going to grow like a weed. It's going to be extremely fast, and in no time, I shouldn't say in no time, but in very short order, you're most likely going to be at, whatever you need to be able to live off of. So pretty much what you could do is you could take this options income, once you get enough of it, put it into the dividend portfolio, accelerate the dividend snowball. If you wanted to make it even faster, let's say you and a spouse live together and you guys are both, financiers or whatever, you guys are both into finance and you want to do it as a team effort, that would make it even faster. Or if you're, a lone wolf, let's say you're not really the type that likes to depend on other people, you just want to do your own thing and be good at it, which is fine. Um, you build this fat options premium income portfolio where you're making like 5-10K a month. You roll that stuff over into dividend paying stocks. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the first person we're not the first people to ever come up with this idea. Okay. But you roll that over into dividend paying stocks in theory. And then you just simply use that to grow the dividend paying trees, right? That's how you would do that. If you want to accelerate it even more, you could then use your active income on top of your options income, assuming you work, to double the rate at which this thing grows. And then once you get enough dividends, then you triple the rate at which this thing grows. So now not only do you have the options income going into the dividend paying stocks, the dividend paying stocks and ETFs have grown enough income of itself to reinvest back into itself and make a significant difference. And you got your active income going in too. So that's strategy number 2. Strategy number 3 would be just simply reinvesting the dividends. Now, if we were not doing options, okay? If you're not doing options, there's a few other ways that you could do this, all right? If options are not your thing, but you do want to grow a dividend portfolio, again, you could do the tiered strategy where you go the super high yield, then the high yield, then the dividend growth stocks, ETFs. But there's other ways you could do it too. So what you could do is you could reinvest the dividends back into your portfolio, use your active income to basically boost that growth. And if you don't want to do options, there's other things you can do, like you can create other side hustles, other ways to make money, like YouTube. You can swing trade. We do swing trading as well outside of options from time to time. You could do day trading. You could move to a cheaper place to live. I mean, there's cheaper states, there's cheaper countries. You could do what's known as geographical arbitrage. You could get a roommate. You could get a higher paying job, get a skill in the job market that gives you the opportunity to make a lot more money. So that way, you can maybe, I don't know, increase your income by 20, 30, 40%. There's some people that are able to double their income just by making a shift in the job market or in the company that they work for. So there's a lot of options out there. These are pretty much the 3 strategies. So the first one, again, I want to reiterate this. The first one for the snowball effect would be going from super high yield dividends to high yield dividends to monthly and also quarterly, relatively low but stable and growing dividend paying stocks and ETFs. Number 2 would be the options portfolio, which again, there's probably people out there that make $100,000 a month in options. I would not be surprised. Number 3 would just simply be reinvesting the dividends and coming up with other side hustles to be able to grow that portfolio. Because some people that invest in dividend paying stocks do not want to do options, because most of the you can do options on dividend growth stocks. That is a possibility. You can even do options on something like Bito, which again is a Bitcoin futures ETF that pays monthly dividends. You can do options on that. There's the option to do that, although it's high yielding. But generally speaking, the dividend growth stocks are not going to be as volatile, so they're not going to pay as much in options premiums as something like, say, Mara or GameStop or AMC or Palantir or SoFi or the big tech companies like Tesla, not Coinbase, but Coinbase, there's that, Tesla, Nvidia, all the other tech companies. But then again, you need a lot more money to do that, right? So it's a little bit more expensive. And then there's people that do the indices. The indices are also very expensive. So options is for the people that, the second option is for the people that actually want to do options. The third strategy would for people that do not want to do options, because some people just don't, for whatever reason, I don't know, but they just don't want to do options. So anyways, this is the 3 ways to accelerate the dividend snowball effect as quickly as humanly possible. Hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.